Hey folks, time once again to do a retro CSS battle. These are daily targets from CSSBattle.dev. If you've got a Plus membership, you can do these old battles and check them out. Here's 3. These are from March of 2024. Here's the 19th of March, and here's the 20th of March, and here's the 21st of March. All right, let's get right to it. All right, what do we got here? So I believe this is a religious, potentially Jewish type scroll, or some kind of a literary device of some kind from the ancient world, right? A display of a scroll. I think the approach I'm going to take is 3 elements with display flex, and they're all going to be slightly different. So I'm going to set up my HTML with 3 elements, and then the second one is different from the first and third. I'm going to do a B on the second one, and they all have a width. The width of the first ones are narrower, so I'm going to give it some arbitrary value. I'm saying var of a dash dash w, and then let's say 20, something like that. And I'm going to set a color like so, and then for the B element, I'm going to set. Now, granted, I know we've got more complex things here. I'm going to set a color dash dash C and a width, and actually B is better for background, isn't it? Yeah. So we do B, and we do var dash dash B, comma, like that, and then width that's wider, we'll give it 100. So there's our 3 elements. Now, to put those all together in a line, we're going to do display flex. We'll do that very nicely. All right, so that's our start. That is our start. So let's adjust our margins to put these into place. 40, 45, 44. That looks 44. Not an unusual number, but not a crazy number. And 90, 100. That looks right. And then that width looks a little bit too unwide. And then the width of the middle one needs to be wider. 2, 3, 4, 5. All right, so that's where we are. So the question is, what can we do that's in common for these elements, right? I think something we can do is use borders on the top and bottom. So let's try that, and that's also going to be variabilized. So I'm going to say border, I believe that's going to be block, border block, 10 pixels solid red. Just show what that looks like. So that's our idea. And if we variabilize both the color and the height, then we can use it for both. So var. And we'll call it A and B. Not feeling particularly creative around the numbers there. Var, and then A and B. B uses the border color. And so now when I set values for A, and then of course I've already done, let's do that. Now when we set, so we're seeing a border there because we're getting a default 2 pixel border, I believe. So the A is going to be more, so let's call it 30 pixels. There it is. And then the color, or again, it's got to be B, doesn't it? Yeah, B has to be this lighter color because we're using it to constrain the size of that. All right, so this is a lot going on. I'm gonna undo the background and undo the background on this as well. and then we can kind of see what we're narrowing in on here. So this color ought to be this, and otherwise it's fine. So now we need, what do we need to do? We need to set, the height is also going to be a variable, isn't it? R-H. Again, the idea is to do as little code as possible. So what I'd like to do is, some of these things that I create, I'm going to remove eventually. All right, so how far can we get? I think that we're good with this part, the tops of the right and left scrolls, we'll call it, because I just want to do the very tippy top of that. And then this one is not tall enough. Is it 40? 40 might be right. And then that height, I need to set a height for the middle one. I'll do a ridiculously short number. We'll do 30. Okay. And okay, let's get the height of the scrolls correct. 2, 3, 4. We're moving that down. 5, 6. There it is. We like that. And now let's do the height of the middle bit. So that's going to be 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100. So that's what we've got now. So what can we do? So this is just the start. So now let's do background. And we're gonna put back the background there. Now we can't see the good work that we've done on the middle one because it's the same color. But I think we'll deal with that. All right, so this background, now we've got it back, but we need to get this little fiddly bit. And for me, I really feel like I can't beat a conic gradient there, which is going to be in the top, and it's going to be not the full width. So I'll do 20 pixels and not the full height. So I'll do 80 pixels. And I'm going to put a no repeat on there just because I want to really understand the shape that I'm doing. And I think it's this color, 75%. And then it's going to be transparent. So that's that. So if we adjust our at value, and I'll do 10 pixels, 10 pixels, then you can see that shaping up. So the vertical might be right at 10 pixels, but this might be too wide. So 5 pixels, no, 10. So the width of the part that repeats, let's try 15. And then it's got to be taller. We should see, if we get this right, we should see half of this filled up, or a little more than half of the width filled up by this. But it should only go down to the bottom of the thick part. Hopefully I'm explaining that well. Probably not. These are all things that are a little hard to visualize, easier to see than to talk about. All right, I think I've got it. I'm going to turn off the repeat, and I think that's the shape. So there it is. A single conic gradient with a size constraint gets us that shape, and we like that a lot. That's terrific. Now we need a background for the other one, and so I'm just going to use the keyword background. And when I do the red, I can see, is it covering just that area? Yes, I am. So I'm happy with that. So what's the best way to do vertical stripes? You've got linear gradients is really the key. You know, we could also do, you could do a conic gradient, right? You could do, the issue is that you've got the narrow part. You could do individual stripes using, what could you do? You could do, well, we could do inset 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 border box, which would be a kind of a silly way to do it. But is that a win? I don't know. Let's actually let's do a background. Let's do that background of what a linear gradient, and we'll do this color, and we'll do 50%, and then transparent. Oh, and it's got to be at 90 degrees. And then when we set a width to it, we get stripes. Is it 20 pixels? If those match perfectly, we can use that. So that's pretty good linear gradient, right? We have a match here in the middle. It's the other parts. Now, we could definitely do inset. Well, let's just do it. Set it out loud. Why not do it? Box shadow. Yeah, box shadow inset 0, 30 pixels red. Okay, so I've got the numbers wrong. 30 pixels and then 0. And if we do that color, that's a choice. This is a choice. And then we would do the same thing again, but with minus 40. And that gets us the shape. That's totally fine. We could do another linear gradient, right? We could do a linear gradient that comes to 40 pixels over, and that would be another choice. Okay, so what can we remove? We've got a lot of code here. I feel like if we do a var of dash dash, and we'll do y, because y are we making variables for everything, and then we set this dash dash y. There it is. Do we need? I don't think we. What are we not using? I think we're not using B. Nope, we're using B. A. We are using A. We're not using G. That's one we can remove. Do we need the width? Yeah, we need the width. Well, that's a nice effect. By animating the width there, we get a little bit of an effect there. I don't believe this is tuned to actually do an animation. So if we made keyframes, we could have that do that smoothly, but probably not in this environment. That's really not the intent of CSS Battle. Although it might be fun to do a target of an animation. If you thought that doing a static image as a target was hard, try doing an animation. It can be quite tricky. All right, we got the B or that. We need height, yes, and box shadow is a bonus. All right, I think we're good. Let's unit replace and minify, and then cut at some of these extra little bits and submit. And that's a completed CSS Battle with 3 elements on a flex line. All right. Next, so lots of curves. Curves are scary. I have solved this one before. So let's solve it now. I think it's a single element. So I'm gonna make the square part. I'm gonna make it just a rectangle, and then align the rectangle as closely as I can to there it is. You see that nice tangent formed. 65 maybe, and then is it 200 tall? No, 170, 160 tall. And those margins might be. All right. So, step 1. Border radius. 100Q, 100Q, 10Q, 10Q. So I'm using Q units. It's just trying to play with them more. 29, 129Q. I don't understand where those numbers come from. I do not investigate them. I understand a pixel, or at least a virtual pixel, better than I understand a Q unit. If these don't work, then I will do something else. All right, so the background, I mean, that's a circle, right? So we're talking about the radial gradient. Radial gradient, so circle, and we need transparent to let through the dark background. Let's try 30 pixels, and then that gets you a circle. And we're not big enough. Let's make it 40. Is that big enough? Looks like it is. So we've got more than one, and it looks like this circle is the same. So the question is, where do we put that, or where to get it from? I mean, obviously we could make it a whole other element that's a circle, but that, you know, we need a border radius, we need heights, widths, we need margins to put that into place. So let's see if we can do it by altering the background. I'm going to put positions of 50%, 50%, which is the implicit values, and then the width is got to be 100%, because we're not repeating on the x-axis, but we are repeating on the y-axis, so we need a different height. So if we do 50 pixels, we get that. So what I'd like to do is adjust this number until it's got the spacing I like. So there, it's 80 pixels because we've got a radius of 40. It's 80 pixels tall, and that's a perfect, like, it repeats. So what's the space between them? That's going to influence the size that this will work at. Is it 100? Looks like it is. So then if we move this down, or up, that looks like it's doing it. So 17% is the position, and again, that's within 100 pixel size, and because we don't have an at, that's dead center inside. So if let me just show you the no repeat here. I'm going to do no repeat. That's the actual background. Okay. And so the reason I do this is because I'm not using an at. I could also do an at 50%, 80 pixels, or 50%, 0 pixels rather. 40 pixels, and get that. But I don't want to use the at if I can avoid it. I'd like to take advantage of, you know, what's available. Sometimes the ats are unavoidable, but in this case, that's how we do it. Let's submit and make sure that's 100% match. That is 100% match. We'll unit replace and minify, and we'll submit that. I like that. I like that solution. Very, very cleanly done. I managed to use the Q units, which, you know, it's a little slightly shorter than a pixel, and I've got a higher score than I did on the whatever the last time it was I did this one. All right. Oh, look at this guy. Oh, he's slightly irritating, isn't he? So we got a lot of shapes here. And what's the optimal way to do this? I definitely feel like there's multiple choice here. We can have linear gradients come in at, you know, 45 degrees, that dark color, 40%. Right, and we can do some of that. Maybe that's the way to do that. 38, 39, 40, 100 pixels, 200 pixels, 190. How about a Q value? 200 Q, 210, 205, 6. Okay, and then if we do another second of those, so I'm kind of just going for it because this one is going to be a little labor intensive regardless. So why not just go for it? That's sort of conceptually what I'm thinking about. You'll note that yeah, we're just going for it. I don't have an order to this one for whatever reason. Let's do a border inline. Solid, 40 pixels solid, and then this color. If we set our margins, we can put that in place. So a little more margin, 7, 65, 67, and then 50, 100, 20, 25. So interestingly, let's set up, make sure we've got a margin of 0 because we're pushing that whole size of this body of this HTML, right? This is a page and it could scroll. If I set the 0 there, then I'll stop affecting the gradient of the body. All right, so this height is wrong. How about 50? There it is. And let's make the width a little bit wider. 60, 70. There it is. So, is this a goofy way to do it? Maybe. I can also do I get a win if I do a background here? Why not? Let's do a background on the element in the middle. So if I do background red, you can see what that is. Oh, semicolon. So that's the part I'm working with. I guess I could also do a border top on these. Not excited about that. Okay, so let's do a linear gradient coming in from the side. So 90 degrees. And it starts at this dark color to cover, and it goes like, 10 pixels or something, 15 pixels. And then it's this lighter color. And you can see that gradient now. It's in the it starts at 0 and it's like 100 pixels wide or something. So that's how you get stripes. And that's dead on in our case. So we'll take it. Interestingly, I am seeing that there's another little nub there, and it is slightly wider. So see this little part that's peeking through? That's kind of a bummer. So what do we do about that? What's the right way to approach it? I mean, obviously we need more backgrounds on this. Yeah, we need more backgrounds. Let's we'll just barrel through linear gradient. And we'll do the dark color and then the light color. And that's what you get. So let's do, some value, 40% and 0. That's how that looks. Oh, and we need not that color, we need this color. All right, what am I doing wrong? Oh, because we're just in the wrong place. Okay, so we got the 3, A6. Oh, I should be using the darker color. Yeah, my eyes tricked me. I'm cutting and pasting the wrong number. And then we've got another line of the dark color. Okay, so let's adjust our numbers. 20, 30, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, there. And then that 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, 37, 38. I feel like 39 is going to be too much. How about 50Q, 100Q, 10, 20, 121Q, 22Q, 21Q. I'll try that. That's not looking good. How about 100 pixels? 110, 115 pixels. That looks good. So again, I'm looking at the diff there. So that's the next part. So this is the tricky part of this one. It turns out we got this little edge that is not accounted for, and so I think it's another linear gradient. We're sort of stuck with this approach. I didn't notice how that worked. I might have done 2 elements with a gap. Would be another way to do that, but then I'm not sure if all those angles would have worked out. Regardless, it's fun. I'm going to do 90 degrees, and then let's do what, red, blue, so I can really see what the heck I'm doing and see if I'm affecting things correctly. And so no, I'm not, because one of these needs to be transparent. I think the final color, so that's this one here of the linear gradient above it. It's like Photoshop layers, right? Well, is it? Yeah, it's like Photoshop layers. Each successive row in the background is below the one before it, the preceding one. So this is the first linear gradient, and if I do yellow here, you can see. So that's the first one. Each one of these is just slightly different, and it turns out I removed one more color than I needed to remove. Okay, so what can I do? I think I need blue here to move this a little lower, 0 and then 50%, and that gets me where I want to be. Okay, so what do we got? We are going vertically, so we can put that 0, and we only need 1 coordinate for background position because we're only altering the x-axis. And then we're going to say that we need, I don't know. So what we need is a width that's just this. So can we figure out what that number is? We're at like 150, 154, 240, so is it like 90 pixels? So 90 pixels. 90 pixels, 0, blue, 100 pixels. Will that do it? So if I then adjust this value, minus 100 pixels, 10, 20, 30, 40, 45, is that doing it? It might be. So let's put the real colors. So blue is really this, and the other color is the other color, assuming my eyes will let me pick the right one. I think that is. So let's submit that and see if we've got it. Some tricky gradients here. Yeah, so that is a match. Not a pretty solution, and I don't feel inclined today to redo it. But you could do this element is an element, and this element is an element, and then use margins to put them into place, or use display flex with a gap between. You're still obliged to do this triangle in some way, and you could do that with a clip path with yet another element, so all elements. So a lot of choices. Unit replace, minify, nips and tucks at some of the code, bits and pieces, space before the hash mark, resubmit, and that's pretty good. And that is a higher score than I've gotten in the past. So I don't remember doing this one. I think I did all gradients because I was very gradient happy. This is very gradient heavy, but I'm also using elements to do the parts that are a little more tedious in gradient land because, you know, use the constraints using margins and sizing and borders if you can, because it's straightforward to do that kind of work. All right, thanks for watching. Make something with CSS and HTML today. These are wonderful, amazing things that have come about under the auspices of browser makers and W3C and creative people who've made all these tools that are freely available. You can view source. This is source. We're looking at source right here. You can view source and learn from it. Admittedly, this code is hard to read. I admit it. But it can be learned. It's a language, and it's a programming language, and you can absolutely learn to do this stuff. It's a lot of fun. All right, have a great day. Bye-bye.